Welcome to the Tech Life Well podcast. We're delighted to have you with us.
Where we make technology simple, thoughtful, and useful. For more insights and episodes, visit techlifewell.com.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling what might be the single most crucial skill you need to master in this new information age.
We're talking about prompt engineering for large language models.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it sounds intimidating, right?
It really does. That word engineering makes you think of complex code, maybe algorithms.
Yeah.
But our mission today, drawing from some really practical guides and checklists, is to simplify this. We want to frame it not as a technical thing, but as a discipline of, high-quality, precise communication.
I like that. For you, the learner, this deep dive is basically a shortcut.
Yeah.
It gets you past those generic, kind of frustrating results we all get when we treat AI like a magic 8-ball. We want to move beyond simple queries to turn that AI from, a general tool into a highly tailored, precise assistant for your actual work.
It's the difference between asking the AI, do some work for me, and saying, here is the exact framework, the tone, and all the information you need to succeed.
So let's start right at the beginning. What even is a prompt?
Well, our sources define it as typically a 1 to 3 sentence instruction. It's written in natural language, and it just gives the model context on what to generate.
And the fundamental takeaway right from the start is this. The quality of what you get out is directly proportional to the amount of context you put in.
It's so true. It's like sending a vague text message versus writing a really detailed project brief.
Right. So if you give it a simple prompt like, tell me a joke, you get
something broad, familiar, maybe a dad joke.
a classic dad joke that, maybe only hits 50% of the time. But if I use that golden rule more context and I say, you are a witty science teacher, tell me a quick joke for a 5th grade class that uses a chemistry concept, the AI is primed.
It is completely primed. It knows the audience, the tone, and the subject.
Exactly.
And that specificity means you get a usable, relevant response pretty much every single time. It stops the model from just wandering off.
Okay, let's unpack this and get straight to the foundational checklist. The absolute non-negotiables for getting good results. If we're building a prompt from scratch, where does the structure begin?
It begins, and honestly, it ends with just extreme clarity about your intention. First, you have to define your goal.
So what do I want it to do?
Exactly. Are you summarizing a document, brainstorming, generating a draft, translating something complex? If you don't define the why, the AI just can't succeed.
And tied directly to that is the format, I assume. You can't just ask for a summary.
No, you need to be specific. I need this summarized into 3 bullet points, or I need a comparison table with 4 columns, or even give me a 500-word blog post.
Because if you don't, it just defaults to a big block of text.
It defaults to verbose paragraphs, and then you have to spend extra time editing it anyway.
So beyond the what, we have to get into the how and the who. The checklist demands, 3 more critical elements?
It does. The first is setting the tone and style, and crucially, identifying the audience.
Why is specifying the audience so important?
Because language just shifts dramatically depending on who's reading it. A professional summary for a CEO needs jargon, brevity, a focus on outcomes.
Okay.
But a similar summary for, say, an artist might need inspirational language, a more casual, exploratory tone. If you ignore the audience, the language is it's always going to be mediocre.
And that leads right to context. The next step is to add context. So background info, specific scenarios.
Right. Think of it like a case study. If you're asking for a marketing plan, you have to include the target demographic, the challenges like low social media engagement, and maybe the budget.
Oh.
Without those guardrails, the plan is just theory.
And finally, what seems like the most powerful foundational hack, role assignment.
This is such a fundamental technique. You just tell the model you are a role.
And that's it.
That one sentence constrains its entire knowledge base and its rhetorical style. If you say, you are a cynical, overworked copywriter, you'll get sharp, edgy copy.
Yeah.
If you say you are a motivational speaker, you'll get upbeat, affirmation-heavy language.
It's an instant shift in perspective.
Instant.
Now, here's an insight I think will save a lot of frustration. The sources advise us to plan to iterate. You can't expect magic on the first try.
Oh, absolutely not. If you get a mediocre response, it's rarely the AI's fault. It's almost always the quality of the prompt. You should really budget time to tweak and reframe that prompt maybe 2 to 4 times.
It's like debugging your own communication.
That's a perfect way to put it. And here's the really fascinating detail. If you're stuck, use the AI to critique your own prompt.
How does that work?
You can just paste your last prompt back in and ask, based on the mediocre answer you just gave me, what 3 things should I add to my prompt to make the next response better?
That turns the tool into a learning engine.
Exactly. You're using the AI to sharpen the tool and to teach yourself better prompt engineering in the process.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Moving into the technical elements of controlling the output. We have the foundation, but how do we design the actual response? What are the individual parts of a detailed instruction?
Well, we can break down any effective prompt into 5 distinct elements. You don't always need all 5, but they're good to know. We start with the core instructions.
So the action verbs: explain, write, summarize.
Precisely. They tell the model what to do. Next, you supply the keywords.
They're relevant terms like prompt engineering or few-shot examples.
Right, they keep the model focused. Then come the constraints or guidelines, things like be short or use bullet points or maintain a friendly conversational tone.
And fourth is context, which we just covered, the background info.
And the 5th element, which is optional but extremely powerful, is examples.
So showing it what I want.
Yes. If you show the AI a sample of the desired output before your instruction, it can learn the exact format, tone, or structure you want instantly. It's more powerful than just describing it.
Speaking of fine-tuning, we have to talk about the creativity dial, the temperature setting. If the model you're using has this, you really need to understand it.
Oh, absolutely. The temperature setting basically controls the randomness of the model's word choices. Think of it like a creative spectrum.
Okay, so if I'm trying to get something really precise, like extracting data points from a research paper, I'd want the temperature very low.
Exactly. You'd set the temperature to maybe 0.2. That prioritizes precision and consistency, has low randomness. It's perfect for summaries, code generation, data extraction, any task where the answer needs to be objective.
And you get basically the same answer every time.
Near identical answers. But if you're brainstorming, trying to come up with ad slogans or, I don't know, story ideas,
You need randomness.
then you crank it up to 0.8 or even higher. That injects more creativity. The model will take bigger, more speculative leaps. Knowing how to adjust that dial is really mastering the engine.
That's a great practical takeaway. But beyond structure, what are the core design tips that, trip up most beginners?
The biggest failure point is ambiguity. We just assume the AI understands the context inside our heads. You have to be clear and specific.
Because ambiguity just leads to irrelevant answers.
And wasted time. Second, and this is a critical warning, avoid feeding the model incorrect facts or assumptions.
Because it just treats that bad input as the truth.
As gospel, exactly. If you give it factually wrong data, the AI will build a very logical, very convincing answer on a completely faulty premise. You need that human vigilance.
And the last point is finding that balance.
Right.
Give it creative freedom, but inside defined guidelines.
Right. You don't want it running wild.
Okay, so if we connect this to the bigger picture, the foundational steps get you great daily results. But what about really complex problems, a big research project or a financial analysis?
For that, you need techniques that enforce complex reasoning and, really importantly, memory.
So let's get into those deep-end strategies, starting with something called few-shot prompting. It sounds academic, but it seems really intuitive.
It is. Few-shot prompting is all about pattern matching. What you're doing is creating a tiny temporary training set right inside the prompt itself.
So you're showing the model the input-output structure you want.
Yes, and then you give it a new instruction. It's not learning it forever, but for that conversation, it adopts the logic you just showed it.
How would I do that practically?
You just provide 2 to 4 high-quality examples of what you want before the final instruction. For instance, if you're trying to convert dry policy statements into energetic marketing hooks, you show it 3 successful conversions first. Then you provide the new policy, and the model will follow the tone and structure of your examples perfectly.
That is a massive shortcut for consistency. The other major method is chain of thought, which is critical for reasoning.
Chain of thought, or COTI, is arguably the most important advanced technique. Its real power is in forcing the AI to show its work.
Why does forcing it to think step by step matter so much?
Because if the model is allowed to just jump to a conclusion, it might skip critical logical steps or introduce false ideas. That's what we call hallucination. By demanding a chain of thought, you're enforcing structural integrity in its reasoning.
Can you give me a concrete example of that?
Sure. Imagine asking it to analyze a complex financial statement. With COTI, your prompt would require numbered steps. 1, summarize revenue sources. 2, identify and quantify major risks. 3, apply a growth modifier. 4, state the final forecast.
And by forcing those steps, if the model hallucinates or misses a risk in step 2, you can spot the error right away. You're quality checking the process, not just the final output.
Exactly. It mimics human project management. We should also quickly mention a few other phrasing styles. There's conversational prompting, just phrasing your request like a natural dialogue.
And affirming prompts, where you kind of build up the model's confidence. You are an expert legal analyst.
Yes, it subtly pushes the model to access its deeper, more expert knowledge. And finally, memory prompting, just referencing previous points to maintain consistency in a long chat. You previously said that kind of thing.
Okay, let's shift to maximizing efficiency, because for anyone using tools like ChatGPT, setting up custom instructions is a total game changer.
Custom instructions are how you permanently personalize your AI. You set these guidelines once, and they apply to all future conversations. There are 2 critical areas to fill out.
The first is about you, right? What would you like the model to know about you? So this is your expertise level, your role.
Exactly. And the second area is about the model. How would you like the model to respond? This is where you enforce rules like always be concise or always include external URLs at the end of the response.
Our sources had some great examples for that section. Things like treat me as an expert or be highly organized or my personal favorite, suggest solutions proactively that I didn't think about. Be anticipatory.
That's a powerful one. It turns the AI from a simple responder into more of a strategic partner.
Now for the real aha moment, the shortcut hack. This is the most specific, high-value trick we found for on-the-fly control. It uses single-letter shortcuts.
This is just pure efficiency. By defining these shortcuts in your custom instructions, you can use a single letter in any prompt to instantly change the style of the output.
So I don't have to write out, please give me a broad academic perspective. I just drop in a letter. Let's run through them.
Okay, first up is W. That stands for wider context or broader perspective. You just type W in your question and you instantly get the academic depth.
Great for context. And for critical thinking, we have A.
A is for alternative view or contrasting opinion. If you're prepping for a debate, using A forces the model to present the opposing viewpoint. It's a fantastic debiasing tool.
Then we have the complexity spectrum, S for simplify.
A must have for explaining complex things to stakeholders. And the opposite is D for delve deeper. If you get a basic answer, you just follow up with D to get that specialized in-depth knowledge.
And finally, 2 powerful utility commands. I is for ignore.
Right. It disregards your last statement. Lets you reset without starting the whole chat over. And Q stands for query.
So that's when the model asks you a clarifying question if it's not sure.
Exactly. It's like enabling the model's own quality control filter. These shortcuts just align the conversation instantly with whatever you need in that moment.
So what this all means then is that precision, context, and that iterative testing. Those are the keys.
They're the 3 pillars. The effort you put into the structure, whether it's a complex chain of thought or just simple custom instructions, it directly correlates with the utility you get out.
It really transforms asking a question into managing a project.
And that transformation requires us to be mindful not just of how the AI thinks, but how we think. Our source material had this fascinating instruction suggestion. It was, value good arguments over authorities. The source is irrelevant.
Wow. That's a deep dive into critical thinking itself, isn't it? Challenging the whole idea of established knowledge.
It is. If you enforce that rule, it forces a radically different kind of answer from the model. It has to become more of a philosophical sparring partner.
So based on that powerful concept, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
If you set your AI to truly value arguments over established authority, what is the most radical or contrarian idea you could successfully prompt it to generate?
And more importantly, what rigorous checks would you need to have in place to trust that output, knowing that the foundation of authority has been completely disregarded?
That is the ultimate test of both your prompt engineering skills and your own critical judgment. Until next time, keep diving deep.